Good day. This is a recording of a webinar for you about the Religious Education Spirited Arts competition. This competition runs every year, and we're inviting you, a pupil, you might be a pupil aged 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, to make an entry to this year's competition. My name's Nat Blaylock, and I'm the editor of this magazine, RE Today. Your work might feature in RE Today magazine if you do a brilliant entry to our art competition, which I hope you will after you've seen some examples and heard a bit about how to enter. I'm going to tell you all about the Spirited Arts competition over the next 40 minutes and give you some examples. This is the 16th year the competition's run. It's open to pupils in school age right across the country and until the end of July. And you can make a work of art to enter this competition, which is multimedia, or you can do a film or a song or some dance or some poetry or some video. Most of the entries we get are 2D art, but loads of other forms of artistic endeavour are welcome. And you can enter for yourself or as a group, as a class, as a small group. And the competition is an art competition, but it's focused on religious education. So you'll have to win by doing something deep about religions and beliefs. We'll go out about 40 prizes and we'll put hundreds of exhibits on the website. We have a gallery there which you can see. If you enter, you'll get a certificate. All the details are on the RE Today and Natre websites, and the competition is under that tagline there. You could click through to that. We have 5 themes in the competition. We have far more in common than that which divides us is the first theme. The second one is about the beauty of the earth, and we ask the question, is this world God's good earth? And what do we better do to look after it? The third theme is about God, where is God? And the fourth theme is about the idea of spiritual healing. And the fifth theme looks at the question of what inspires you. I'm going to take you through those themes pretty quickly. At any point during the presentation, if you want to pause and read a bit extra or make a few notes or jot down some ideas of your own, that would be a good idea. So go ahead and do that if you would like to. In the presentation, you'll find details of the competition. You'll find examples from all of the 5 themes and stuff that will get you thinking about how to enter this competition for yourself. Your work will be good if it combines your creativity and your thinking and your deepest ideas about some of the biggest questions of life. That's what makes this a religious education competition. I wonder if you know about Jo Cox. In 2016, Jo Cox, MP for Batley in Spain, was killed. She was murdered in a racist attack. And to keep her memory alive and to represent all that she stood for, we are working with the Jo Cox Foundation this year on a quotation from one of Jo's speeches. We have far more in common than that which divides us. I wonder if you'd like to do a work of art that shows your take on what we have in common as human beings. Too often there seems to be division and conflict between different groups, but surely what keeps us as one humanity is more important than the things which divide us. Here's a few examples. The first one by Grace, age 11, has made a picture there. Can you see what she's done? All the different the face is made up of all different stripes. She says it stands for beauty in every person, no matter their skin type. Grace lives in Leicester, and she says, I have a strong belief in equality and the horribleness of racism. I hope my picture inspires people to fight racism and stop people judging others by their appearance. Hasn't she done a fine piece of work there? And of course, it raises the question, doesn't it, that we commonly do make judgments about others based on their appearance, or based on their skin color or ethnicity or their religion or some aspect of their life. Should we stop doing that? The next picture in the same theme is called Pouring Harmony and Love onto Britain, and it's by 12-year-old Kiala. A Union Jack teapot with all the different flags from loads of different nations where people have migrated to the UK. She puts them all in the same teapot. And what pours out into the cup that she has illustrated as a cup of love there is harmony and understanding and tolerance, 7 values that she believes in, pouring like a rainbow out of the teapot of Britain. She says, what I like best is that I think I had an original idea here. And her values there, she uses harmony and love and understanding. And I wonder if you would express in your Art in Heaven work this year some of your values, the values that might lead to Britain being a less racist society, to the United Kingdom being more united around our common humanity. Jean is only 7, and he's made an amazing picture here. Just have a close look at it. It's a picture of a battle scene. There are helicopters and fire planes and bombs and bullets flying through his picture. And he says, look, where is God when the wars and hating are happening? It's difficult to see. But if you look again, you'll see people helping, being brave, young children still playing. That's where I think God is. I like the way that Dean suggests that God is with us when we help each other. I wonder what you think. Maybe you're a believer in God, or perhaps you're not. That's fine. What do you think our communities can do, though, to be less hateful, particularly when sometimes people seem to hate each other because of their religions? Here's another. And this pupil has given us no commentary at all. An 11-year-old, and they use the Joe Cox quotation, "We have far more in common than that which divides us," to state we are all human. And just look at all the human differences that this painting, this drawing draws attention to. Some of us are old, some of us are young, some of us are Muslim, some of us are Christian, some of us are gay, some of us are straight, some of us are black, some of us are white, some of us are blind, some of us are deaf, some of us are anorexic, some of us are male, some of us are female. Every different kind of human diversity pictured in this image. But look, they're all connected. The rainbow colours and the individuals hold hands. And the message of the art, the impact of it is obvious, isn't it? We have more in common than that which divides us. 11-year-old Isla has made a work of art called "Could Britain Be a Rainbow Nation?" And can you see what she's done there? She made drawers out of matchboxes. 7 matchboxes on one side and 7 on the other to make a pillar. And from the 2 pillars, she's put a rainbow archway over the top of them. And then hanging between the pillars, she's put all the values of tolerance and harmony and respect for all that matter to her. In the middle of her thoughtful piece of writing about this, in which she describes the sculpture that she's made, she says, "I've used the lyrics from Ebony and Ivory. We all know that people are the same wherever you go. There's good and bad in everyone, and we learn to live when we learn to give." Isla's view is that we can show more respect and understanding of each other's differences, and there can be kindness for everybody. She explores that idea in the way that she's put this kind of arched set of drawers turned into pillars on the top of an image of the United Kingdom, Scotland and Northern Ireland and Wales and England, all covered in the diverse faces of the people who make up our communities. She finishes off her description there. She says, "I hope that we can live not judging by what others look like or where they're from, but by their heart and the love that is shown towards all people." I think the use that she makes of the Joe Cox quotation is very skillful in this little sculpture, and it raises the question, I wonder what your response is. How should we behave towards those who are different from us? And then in this picture called Diversity and Unity, can you see what the 5 different faces are showing? And can you see in the background the symbols for the Christians and the Sikhs and the Muslims and the Jewish people and the Buddhists all linked up together? The image expresses a vision for humanity, not that we should be all the same. This is not about flattening out the differences between different religions or races or people from all different kinds of background and life. Instead, we might be Sikh or Muslim, Christian or Buddhist, or have no religion at all, but the vision is that we can be united and celebrate our diversity and our uniqueness. Well, you've seen a few examples there, haven't you? And that theme of more that unites us than keeps us apart is one that you might choose. Perhaps you'll do a work of art based on that. Or maybe you're interested in this one instead. God's good earth, we ask, it's a question. Does the earth belong to God? Do you think that the earth is good? Do you think that the humans are doing good things or dangerous things to the earth at the moment? I'm inviting here again a huge entry from your schools. We ran this theme last year, and it was our most popular theme last year because so many of you, so many young people in school just at the moment have so much to say about the future of the planet and the need for environmental protection and climate justice. So these might whet your appetite. These might inspire you and other pupils in your school. Here's the first one by 8-year-old Charles from St. James Juniors. And look what he's got there. How many different colours of plastic bottle tops has he collected to create this amazing bottle top turtle made on a sea of paint and really huge. It's over 1 meter wide. James says this about his idea. He doesn't really believe that this is God's good earth, but he does believe it's our good earth. I don't believe in any religion or God. When the first life forms appeared, like fish and the turtle, the humans evolved from the life forms in the ocean and started inventing, well, plastic. And the plastics are now turning against, destroying sea life. We've shown that in our artwork. The turtle is made from plastic. All the creatures slowly dying. Charles asks a question about this. I believe if there was a God, he asks, would he really let this happen? And I get from Charles' work that what needs to happen for us to save our beautiful planet from some of the destructive power of what humans have been doing to it, what needs to happen is that everybody needs to do their part. And some people do that part because they believe in God, and others because they believe in humanity. I love the way in which this collaborative project has created this bottle top turtle. Have a look at the next one. And have a good look at it before you read what the artist has to say about it. Can you see planet Earth there? And can you see a face that looks a bit like, I don't know, a bit like a face of a goddess? And can you see the giraffe and the elk? And can you see the dolphins? And can you see the stars in the sky above? Can you see the birds? Beautifully painted, isn't it? I wish I could paint like that. And beautifully described and written about as well by Isabel and Charlotte and Astrid, who have called their piece of work Mother Earth. And they say the religions that inspired us were the Hindus and the pagans, because the Hindus believe that Brahman is in everything, but the original idea of Mother Earth comes from pagans based on the worship of nature. God is like a mother who has given us life and sustains us, keeps us going. The girls say, this work is spiritual because it might remind people that the earth is a gift to us and we should look after it. And it's very relevant at the moment because we really need to start caring and putting the earth and others before our own, maybe selfish desires. Beautiful painting, but really powerful words as well. And the best entries for the Art in Heaven competition do both. They're great art, but they're also beautifully thought through. They're wonderful painting, but they're also wonderful thoughts expressed really clearly. If you enter, as you work on your artwork piece, then you need to be thinking, how am I going to explain and describe this? How will it connect up to what different people believe and what different religions perhaps have to say? Or if you're perhaps a person who's spiritual but not religious, how will you express your own thoughts and ideas about that as you go? And which religions can you reflect upon, as the girls here have used ideas from the Hindus and from the pagans? Would you look at this next one before I show you what the student who has made it has to say about it? You see the disjointed face, the face made up of colours of red and yellow and blue, and the bandage across the character's eyes that says God complex. You may recognise the hands above. They're copied from a very famous painting. And the 15-year-old who made this has this to say about it. Humans are ruining the earth because we think we're gods. We behave as if we're all powerful, but actually we're stupid. The blindfold says God complex, and the hands that come from the Michelangelo painting of God's gift of life to Adam, that reflects this idea that a God complex is a psychological disorder. If you're afflicted with a God complex, you think you can't fail and that you're worth more than other humans. And you can get a bit blinded like that to your own arrogance and hubris, big-headedness. A God complex means a person fails to acknowledge any evidence of any power higher than themselves, just as this blindfolded man won't acknowledge God. The artist says, I wanted this unnatural, inhuman, bright colours to be used to paint this person with a God complex. He believes himself wants to be more than human. But the hands at the top, I've done those more human, more natural. I wanted to humanize God. The student finishes by saying, this disparity between the hands and the man show how distorted man has become, far from the image of God. And this distortion, I don't know if you've ever seen anything quite like that one before. It was entered into our competition last year, and it's on the web gallery. And perhaps your entries will be on our web gallery at the start of next year. What we usually do there, we ask you to enter by the 31st of July to send in your competition entries, and then we encourage students to to wait until September for the judging, and we send out prizes and certificates towards the end of September and update the web gallery as quickly as we can. You'll be able to have a look at other students' work on the web gallery, things that other pupils and classes have done, and I would encourage you to do that. That would be great. But we'd also say to you, don't copy, be original. Come at this with your own ideas from your own creative imagination. This is Amy, and she's 10, and she made this work of art, again in response to the idea of God's good earth. Is the earth good? Does it belong to God? Amy's piece of work is called Awful Sea of Plastic. And can you see how beautifully she has drawn a sad figure, a crying child? And down below, she has collaged dead fish in a sea of plastic. And why has she put the burning earth instead of a brain in the head of the girl that she's drawn? She says this, that girl's head is full of an overheated world. Now, is that real or imaginary? Well, at the moment, it's still imagination, but in 10 years, it is real. The sea full of plastic and dead fish rises round her shoulders. We haven't just ruined it for the fish, but we'll ruin the earth for ourselves too. We are literally drowning in our own stupidity. God help us. That's Amy's view of what it means to ask the question about whether the earth is good and if it belongs to God. She responds with her awful sea of plastic. And this one comes from a pupil in a special needs school. And we love it when entries come from all different kinds of schools. Maybe your school is a church school, or it's a community school, or it's an academy, or it's a special school, or it's an independent school. We don't mind. We love to see all of your entries. And here again, we have a turtle. Oh, look at him. He's a slightly mournful looking turtle, isn't he? Swimming through a sea that includes plastic bottles and throwaway ring pulls from tin cans and plastic cutlery just thrown into the ocean. Let me live, says the turtle. And in some ways, that one's quite a simple piece of work. But, you know, sometimes simple is best. If your imagery is simple, then it can have high impact. I wonder how you'll apply that idea to the work that you enter for spirited arts. I've shown you a few of those now, haven't I? Remember the ones that we've seen that come from that theme, God's good earth. I don't know which one you would pick as the best and say that's your favourite of all of them. But if you choose that theme and you enter a piece of work based upon our environmental crisis, on our climate justice issues that we face as a world just at the moment, if you do choose that one, then don't copy any of these. Instead, your own imagination and your own set of thinking, thoughts and connections with what the different religions have to say about what it means to live on God's good earth. That's what might make your work winning work. Your own creative imagination, your own deep thinking. The third theme I want to introduce to you is the theme, Where is God? And we've used this theme over a number of years in our Art in Heaven competition, and I reckon this year we're going to get a bumper entry on this. For example, some of you might be wanting to ask, where is God in a COVID world? Where is God in the world of the pandemic? Atheists and believers of all different kinds, atheists, of course, those who say there is no God, they all have something to say about the nature of God and whether God is real. So I wonder what you think. Do you believe that God is found in human hearts or in the scriptures of different religions? Or is God far away? Is God in the stars? Or can God be close to humanity? Prophet Muhammad of the Muslims, peace be upon him, he taught that God is as close as your journey away. And how do you find God? Can you find God in worship or in nature? Do you know, some people say that they have found God in hard times, in suffering, or in pain. So this theme comes from an idea from the Jewish Bible, from Psalms 42 and 43. And you're invited, as you tackle this theme, whatever your own beliefs about God, if you believe strongly in God, or if you believe strongly that there's no God, you're invited to make your own creative and thoughtful response to the question, where is God? Here is Anna's one, and she is 5, and Anna believes that she can find God in her little brother, and she also says God lives in me. I loved Anna's work because I know some people who've got a little brother think that it's not God, it's the devil who's in their little brother. What a nice big sister Anna must be. Where do you think God is? Is God found in people's relationships? This next one comes from Ethan, who is 6, and he's drawn himself. That's him with the big brown shoes on, jumping up on the hillside among the flowers. And then he's sort of drawn God in the black spaces of space up above. Ethan says this, a picture's called Jumping Up to God. Up in heaven, he says, there is God. All of these are the planets. Can you see he's drawn the planets there? And I am jumping up to give God a flower from the hill. God looks just like me. I like Ethan's work because for the age of 6, it's really thoughtful, beautifully drawn, and very creative. And you know, those are the things that the judges look for in the Art in Heaven competition. Is your work well crafted? Is your work really thoughtful and connected to religions or beliefs? Is your work a little bit original? Is it not something that's been done before, but something that comes fresh from your own mind? Ethan's work was a winner a couple of years ago because it is beautifully drawn, because it is very thoughtful about the idea of where God might be found, and because it's a little bit original. I've never seen anything quite like it before. Here's another. What do you guess is going on here? This is God running and jumping over the rainbow. And Matthew, who's also 6, comes from Moncton School. He says, God is above the rainbow and the sky is blue. God is at the top, running in the clouds. Do you notice here that different children express their own beliefs differently? And that's fine. In some ways, that's what the competition is all about. It's not about saying, here's the final answer to the God question, or to the climate question, the environment question. It's about saying, come on, what have we got? What are your insights and thoughts? What are your deepest beliefs? What are your own imaginings and creativities going to say about one of these big questions? RE's like that. RE explores loads of different answers to all the most important questions in life. And because of that, religious education is a space in which you can imagine and think deeply for yourself, like Kerry has done. She says, I painted a tree by washing some ink down and splashing a lot down, and then using a straw to blow some branches. That's how she's made the picture of the tree. My picture shows, says Kerry, that God's love is growing every second. He never shrinks. He just gets bigger and bigger. I painted a tree because it's exactly the same. It grows like God's love. That's interesting, isn't it? That she hasn't painted a person, a man with a beard. I don't mind if younger children think of God like that. Of course, that's a common thing to do. But instead, she's made a symbol. And her symbol for God is a symbol of a tree that's growing. And the idea is that the love of God grows and grows all the time. I wonder if your work needs to be a symbol rather than something too literal. Lots of religions do that. They speak of God not as an old man in the sky on a cloud with a beard. They speak of God as light, love, or growth, or power, or some other symbolic idea. What would your symbol of God be? And what do you think of Kerry's one, a 9-year-old who pictures God as a growing tree of love? As I mentioned, not everyone is positive about the idea of God. And in this picture, some boys from a school in Staffordshire reflect on what they've been learning about the genocide, the attempt to kill a whole race of people in Rwanda. The boys have this to say about their work. They show the idea of people drowning into the earth. Hands reach out towards what they hope will bring help to save them from the genocide and the images that crawl in their minds. We were trying to represent the pain and suffering of the Rwandan genocide, and the hands reach out for help, but no help's received from the military rescue forces. It shows that God was not there to help the Tutsis, so they had to pray and beg for their lives. This may have brought them hope, but it did not save many of them. Their hands are reach out, trying to locate God, but he's just out of reach. There's a big question there, isn't there, about where is God when times are hard, when people suffer? In the face of death, where is God then? And the boys have engaged with the question very powerfully. Oh, there's a young lady there as well, Catherine, too. They've engaged with the question very powerfully, haven't they? You can see what they've used, cling film and newspaper and willow sticks and masking tape. And actually, I think they've used rubber gloves to create those hands that they've made. And I don't mind, nobody minds among the judging panel, what you use to make your work of art. What makes Tom and Billy and Joe and Catherine's work exceptionally interesting is the deep thinking that has gone with it. So in this competition, your artwork matters, but your thought matters just as much. Give us the best of both. I wanted to show you this one as well. It's quite hard to read because it's a little bit of a smudgy scan around the edge, but in the middle of this flaming eye, there are a number of key words that have been written. And the student has made this, comes at the whole question of God from a very negative perspective, saying, I don't believe in God. I don't think there can be a great God full of love. That's 14-year-old Ryan, and the picture is called God is a Coward and a Fake. I drew the eye burning to represent the ferocity caused by religion. Inside the eyeball, 10 words. It says, I think God is a coward who doesn't come to help in danger, has done nothing to stop poverty, allows suffering to happen, makes people's minds corrupt so that they destroy great things in his name. Ryan says God is a fake and that people have been sometimes suicidal because of beliefs about God, and that God does not save children from disease as a cause of great sadness, and that God is a cheat. God is said to be a saviour, but where is he when needed? And some people have been assassinated in the name of God, and God is a liar. He says he'll be there for us, but when? Ryan's view concludes like that. My view is that God is nowhere, merely a myth, causes wars, causes pain, causes sadness. Powerfully expressed atheistic or near atheistic perspective from 14-year-old Ryan there. I wonder if you agree with him and if you want to express your disbelief, your unbelief regarding God in your work of art, or if you disagree and you want to engage with Ryan's arguments and examples and put a counterpoint of view. Perhaps that's in some ways what the next image does. In this picture, a girl has made, can you see, she's made a stained glass. And in the middle of it, there's a mirror. And then surrounding that, she has put purple and gold radiating from the picture in the center. But the mirror in the middle has kind of got blue cracks all over it. What does her work say about the question, where is God? She's called Jenny and she's 14 as well. And she says this, God, he lies in you. I believe every one of us possesses him. I've included a mirror, and when you look at the artwork symbolizing God, you see your own face. The image is broken because it is hard to see that God is in each one of us. Jenny says it's very personal. I'm sure not everyone agrees, she says, but the design's got deep meanings. Everything from the colors and the shapes, it all symbolizes something. I won't explain it. You can work it out for yourself. That's what makes Jenny a great artist there. Her work speaks for itself. Just wonder if you compared that one with the burning eye that we looked at before. One, a very strong statement of disbelief about God, and this one, I think, a very personal and strong statement of belief about God. Wouldn't it be interesting if those two young people, Ryan and Jenny, spoke to each other about their differences? I'm sure they'd be able to do it without shouting or being rude to each other, because dialogue, where we talk to each other about the beliefs that we hold that are different, dialogue is so important in human life and in religious education. I wonder how you would dialogue with Jenny. I wonder what you would ask her about that idea that God is seen in each of us like a face in a mirror, but the image is broken because it's hard to see God inside of yourself. We've had a good look there at a number of images that show pupils' responses, age 5 or 6, up to age 14, to the question, where is God? And the fourth theme that I want to spend a bit of time looking at with you is the theme of healing. And that's interesting, you see, that religions often teach that God can heal humanity. Many, many religious people believe that God does that through the work of medical doctors and hospitals, and that most of the healing that we can thank God for comes from the ordinary processes of the body getting better after we've got sick. But there are some special stories there as well, and some special places within religions. So God tells Moses in Jewish tradition, I am the God who heals you. And Jesus was a famous healer, helping people who were maybe blind or deaf or suffering from many other kinds of illness or disease. And I don't know if you know this, but the Balaji Mandir in Rajasthan is a famous place of Hindu healing, where Hindu pilgrims go if they're sick or if they want to go and pray for somebody they love who is sick, and they seek the healing of the gods and goddesses at the Balaji Mandir. And the Christians have a similar place in Lourdes, and many others as well from different religions. But when you go there, not everyone gets healed. Not everyone experiences the healing power of God. And some people come back from that saying, God didn't make my arthritis better, or God didn't heal me of the injury that I've suffered, but I am healed in my mind, in my soul. That's more important. I wonder if you agree, or if you think that's kind of cop-out, as some atheists would say, that religious healing is some kind of trick or not real in some way. I think you could choose for this theme many, many stories of healing from many, many different religions. If you want to, you can illustrate a story of healing, and you can show it. You can show it in whichever art form you choose, and then you can show your opinion about it. And you can say what you think is good about the story, or if you want to challenge the story. I don't have many examples of this one because this is a new theme. We've never had this theme in the Art in Heaven competition before. So I hope very much that we'll get hundreds and thousands of entries to this, and then I'll have loads more examples. But let me just show you this one. This is Hannah and Harriet and Lucy, and they're all 11. And they've created an image based on the story of Jesus healing a blind man. And you see that it's basically an eye, and that's very appropriate. And they've written about it like this. We've chosen Jesus' story, the cure of the blind man. We made an eye to incorporate sight and touch, and that reflects how Jesus healed people by touching. The blind man, unable to see, uses his sense of touch to see his surroundings. I think that's why the girls have used like bubble wrap and pipe cleaners and different textures of paint and paper to make their work. They say sight is portrayed with photographic images, and they show how much we rely on sight, and also reflecting what the blind man can see when Jesus, in the story, heals him. The turning point of the story is a revolution for this man's life. He reaches the sighted world and is included rather than pushed away or left out. Not an outsider anymore. But here's the best bit of what the girls say, I think. We think Jesus restored the sight of all the people, and the blind man is no longer invisible. You know this, don't you, that often if people suffer from a disability, or if people have some illness, then the reactions of other people are almost as bad, or sometimes even worse, than the illness or the disability themselves. And I love the way that Hannah and Harriet and Lucy, age 11, have brought that idea out. Do you see what I mean about the combination of, that's a very thoughtful reflection on Jesus' miracle, isn't it? And the combination of great art with great thinking is what makes winning work in our competition. So go at it with both of those in mind. Do great art and do great deep thinking as well. The last theme I want to tell you about is the theme of inspiration. And I'm asking here, why is it that billions of people all over the world find inspiration from their religions? I think all of us need and probably have some sources of inspiration. That maybe your mum or your dad or your big brother or the people who care for you at home, or somebody you really admire in your school, or it may be someone whose life you've seen in a movie. It might even be a fictional character who's inspired by Gandalf, who's inspired by Harry Potter. Just notice there that inspiration can change and can come from, yes, a person's life, but also perhaps from poetry, from music, from art, from a particular sporting achievement. Inspiration comes from many places, including some that comes from faith, from religion, from spiritual life. And sometimes people say, oh, it's not a person, it's words that have inspired me. This poem, or this bit of my scripture, or this text are what really have inspired me in life. I wonder if I ask you, what's inspired you in your life so far? Who's your inspiration? What texts have moved you? What texts have got you going and made you do something that is good and different to what you would have done if you'd just never known about them? And if you take that text, that life story, that piece of music, that sporting event, if you take that and say, this is inspiring to me, then show it to us in your work of art, but also show it to us in the text that you write that goes with it. Here's a few examples that might get you thinking. The first one is actually about being inspired by the Buddha. And can you see how beautifully, how carefully this image has been made? It's actually an entry that came from Indonesia, and we have entries to our competition every year that come from different countries. Last year, about 10 different nations sent in entries. And in this one, the family come, can you see mum and dad and the two children there, just kneeling at the shrine in front of a Buddha Rupa, an image of the Buddha. The text that goes with this from Atalia, who made it, says, we go to sit with the Buddha image at our temple. It's something we do as a whole family. It's inspiring because there is lots of pain and suffering in the world, but we find peace and we can reduce suffering if we let the Buddha inspire us. Actually, that's a fantastic summary of what the whole of Buddhism, the whole of the way of the Buddha is all about, because the Buddha lived and taught a way to bring suffering down, a way to reduce suffering, a way for there to be less unsatisfactoriness and pain in the world. I think Athalia has put that really well and expressed it in the drawing and the writing. This one comes from Jewish tradition. I wonder if you can see what's going on here. 3 young people, 3 young men, have been thrown into a furnace, and in the furnace with them appears an angel. And this reflects a story from the book of Daniel, where 3 exiled Jewish people were taken by the king in whose land they were migrants and told, "You worship me now, I'm your king, worship me." And they said, "Well, we're Jewish people and we worship one true God who's invisible and eternal, and we won't worship you." And the king said to them, "Well, I'll throw you in the furnace then." And they said, "Well, you can throw us in the furnace, but actually we don't worship humans, we worship God. So you do what you do." And they were thrown into the burning fiery furnace, as is recorded in the Jewish scripture of Daniel. But as the king watched the 3 young men thrown into the furnace, he saw a 4th figure there. An angel had come to protect them. And he said, the king changed his mind and said, "Blessed be the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who has sent his angel and saved his servants who trusted in him." The pupil who's made this, and isn't it nicely made, has this to say about it: the inspiring story of 3 people who stood up for their freedom to believe. Where is God? In the fire. You don't know you'll find him there, and you don't want to be there. But sometimes the only way to find out if God is real is to be in the fire. When it gets hot, you'll find a presence that's beyond belief. That piece of work could actually have been entered, couldn't it, in the "Where is God" category, but it comes to us as an inspiring piece of work. The inspiring example of people who are willing to lay their lives on the line in order to maintain their trust in God, their freedom of religion. So that's a Buddhist one and a Jewish one. And the next one is a Sikh one. And this is interesting because it's a beautifully painted portrait, isn't it, of Guru Nanak. And it refers to a number of his teachings. But the pupil who made it is called Andrew and says, "I'm not a Sikh, but the Guru was inspiring because he was one of the first religious leaders to teach that male or female, Hindu, Muslim, we're all equal before God. We have free will to choose what we believe." Andrew says, the pictures that Sikhs use to remember the Guru are very peaceful, full of kindness. Do you think his picture does that? Does it exude peace? Does it show kindness? I think it rather does. And notice there that he's inspired not by somebody from a religion that he follows or believes in, because it's perfectly possible to get inspired by the religions or the beliefs that come from other parts of the world, other people's consciousness, that are not the ones that you've been brought up to or that you belong to. So when you share your inspiration, you can share it from anywhere that you found it. Here's one more. And in this one, Tamsin, who's 12, has made a picture of a Bible story where Jesus calms a storm to save his disciples. And she calls it "Jesus, My Inspiration," and says, "I think that the story can be a good metaphor for calming other things in life, for calming, for example, people." It's interesting that spirituality often draws on ancient story. So if somebody says, "In my spiritual life today, I need peace, I need calm," then actually drawing on ancient story is one of the ways that religion can inspire. Now, you've seen a load of examples there, and I want to sum up and finish off this webinar by definitely inviting you to make an Art in Heaven work of your own. And as you plan your entry for the Spirited Arts competition, there's a few things that I'd like to draw to your attention and remind you of. You might want to pause as we come to the end of this session, and you might want to make some notes, do some initial planning, draft out some initial ideas. You may at this stage have loads of ideas. Perhaps you want to enter all 5 themes, or 2 or 3 of them appeal to you equally. That's fine. Take your time, think it through. You could make links between 2 of the different themes if you want to. There's definitely a connection, isn't there, between the theme about God's good earth and the theme about there is more that unites us than keeps us apart. And there's definitely a connection as well, isn't there, between the idea of inspiration and the idea of healing. Well, make the connections that you would like to. And you might not yet have decided if you want to make two-dimensional art or 3D sculpture, or if you think, I'm going to write a song, or I'm going to make a short video, or I'm going to produce a dance and have it filmed, or what you're going to do. We've seen brilliant entries that do all of those things in the competition in recent years. So as you plan, can I remind you that the competition runs until 31st of July, and all entries are complete with your details, complete with your name, your age, your school, and your write-up. That's very important that we get your write-up along with your artwork. All entries must be with us at the National Association of Teachers of RE by the 31st of July. All different kinds of artwork are welcome, and we particularly enjoy when we're doing the judging, things that are different, things that we haven't seen before. And we make that one of the criteria of our judging. Is there a sparkle of originality about your work? And you can make an individual entry, but sometimes a whole class enters together, and sometimes a small group, 2 or 3 or 4 pupils, work together, students collaborating to make their entries. And please notice that this is an art competition, and it's also an RE competition. So great entries will reflect the ideas of religions and beliefs. They may use scripture quotations from the Bible, from the Torah, from the Bhagavad Gita, from the Guru Granth Sahib, from the Holy Quran. They may use scripture quotations as a basis or in the write-up that you do along with those. And they may make reference to great lives, to great teachings, to great examples from inside particular religions. But notice too, I'll say it one more time, that this competition is for everybody. If you are a religious person, that's fine. Use your religious perspective to enter the competition. If you're an agnostic, you're not sure about God, or if you're an atheist, you believe there's no God, or if you're a person who says of yourself, well, I'm spiritual, but I'm not really religious, then your entries are very welcome. And your perspective is just as important as any perspective from inside a particular religion. So it's RE focused. It gives you an opportunity to explore and express your own ideas, your reasons for your ideas, your beliefs, your values. I want you to know that there will be 40 plus prizes this year, and we will put hundreds of the exhibits from the Spirited Arts competition onto the website, and we'll be sending certificates out to the schools of all those who enter so that you get a certificate of entry. There's a lot more detail about the competition and plenty of examples, hundreds and hundreds on our web galleries that go back over the years there. If you use that link, natraid.org.uk, actually you can just click through from the front page there to the Spirited Arts web galleries for 2020 and to the competition details for 2021. I'm just about finished there, but I thank you for spending the time to watch the webinar right through. And I want to encourage every pupil watching, whatever age you are, if you're in the infants or the juniors, or if you're in the Key Stage 3 age groups of 11 to 14, and actually, can I say, especially to those of you 14 to 19 years of age, we don't get so many entries there because people are often very absorbed with examinations. But why shouldn't you be creative? Why shouldn't you be imaginative? Why shouldn't you do some artwork as a part of your religious studies course? Whether you're thinking at GCSE or standard grade or A-level or whatever examination you're taking. So I want to encourage entries across the whole age group there, and a special word there for people who are in the senior student age ranges. The competition is something we've been running for 15 years. Each year we get about 20 to 30,000 pupils and students who enter the competition. So your odds of winning are quite short. Oh, no, they're not really, they're quite long. Last year, it was the lockdown year, and we got about 50,000 students who took part, even more. I can't tell this year what the scale of the entry will be, but I hope you enter, and I'd like to wish you luck as you do so. And I hope that you find, whether you win or not, I hope you find the process of expressing your own beliefs, your own values, your own big ideas and the reasons behind them. I hope you find that process enjoyable and stimulating and thought-provoking. Thank you very much.